All right, so we have this viral video on TikTok that's going around where a lady bought a Telluride used from a franchise dealer, and what they did was they called her back and said, "You know what? I know you just bought this car, but we're going to need it back." And what this lady said that the dealership told her was that the person who sold them, this was a trade in to this dealership. The person who traded in that Telluride to the dealership said that they wanted it back. So now this dealership wants to come back to this lady who bought the Telluride and get it back from her to give it to their original customer. So there's a few ways where, I mean, this is a big problem. Obviously, the lady had already bought the car, and the dealership can't get this car back. But there's a few ways where this dealership could have messed up to be in this situation, in this pickle that they're in. And really, it's a big problem for them. It's a big problem for the customer who traded in that car, and it's a big problem for this lady that was on TikTok that bought this vehicle. And I got this story from Steve Leto. He's a lawyer that covers a lot of these kind of things online on YouTube. He's got a great page. I'll put the link to the video down in the description below. But he'll talk a little bit about the legal side of it. But I'm a car dealer. I'm a used car dealer, so I can talk about the back end and how something like this can actually occur, where the dealership needs to get that car back, even though they've already sold it. And what it really boils down to is they didn't have their paperwork in line. They didn't do the correct research on this vehicle when they took it in as a trade-in, and they didn't have all the paperwork finalized before they actually went and resold it. So what these dealerships like to do is, whenever they have a prospective customer that comes into the dealership, they want to do anything they can to get this deal done. And a lot of times that means cutting corners on paperwork, especially when there's a trade-in that's involved. So what I believe happened in this case is that, well, there's really two scenarios where this first customer came in. They wanted to buy this brand new Kia from this dealership, and they traded in their year-old Kia to get to it. Now this dealership, they were ready to go ahead and move this car to this individual, and they're like, okay, yeah, the trade-in will give you this amount of money. You got the title at the house, whatever. Yeah, we'll go ahead and get this done. Let's go ahead and get all this inked and put on paper. Let's go ahead and get you in this new car, and you can just bring us the title later. We can get whatever we need satisfied later to get this title in our hands. And for the first scenario, that initial customer could have bought their new car, got their monthly payment, and realized, okay, this is not one that I want to be in, and they get buyer's remorse. And when they do that, then they could have this title for the car that they traded in and say, okay, I want my old car back. And it could be true that what this dealership was telling to this lady on TikTok is that, yeah, the original person who traded this car in, they want their car back, and they want out of the new car. They want out of that new car payment. They just want their old car back. And that they could hold the title hostage and say, you know what, I'm not giving you this title. Let's undo the deal. Let's unwind it, and I want my car back. But the problem is that they've already sold her trade in, right? And that's where this situation rolls in, where it could be that the dealership, they can't do anything to get the title from this original buyer, and their hands are kind of tied at that point. There's another situation where, okay, there's a lien on this Telluride that this person traded in, and the amount that they thought was owed on this lien is much greater than they actually found out. Again, I'm saying that this dealership did not do the research that they needed to find out everything that was going on with this car, and if there was something wrong with the lien, something wrong with the title, something wrong that was going to hold up this car from actually being able to have the paperwork processed, then it's on that dealership to make sure all this stuff's finalized. So if there's any kind of hiccup, any kind of lien, we've seen situations here at my dealership where there was a lien on a vehicle. We bought that vehicle, and then we found out that that bank went under, or that bank was sold to another bank. So then that lien is basically just in limbo as the banks change hands. And that created a big problem for us. And there's another situation where they could have bought this vehicle and maybe it wasn't even a trade-in, but this happens to a lot of dealers now, that especially that buy used cars. If you go to an auction, when you go buy a car from an auction, when I go buy a car from an auction, we don't get titles. And the reason why is because these franchise dealers that take these trade-ins, as soon as they get that trade-in in, they don't have room on these lots to just store these trade-ins until they get the title work processed, and they want to turn and burn these cars as quickly as possible. So they might trade for a car on Monday, not have the title or anything. They just, okay, get the deal done. We'll figure out the title later. But on Tuesday, that auction's running. They're going to have that car at that auction on Tuesday to sell it to another dealer. And that's where we buy a car from. This is a big frustration that I have to deal with on almost a weekly basis, is where we have to wait for titles from these franchise dealers because they do not provide the title to the auction when the car is sold. Now, there's a lot of laws across a lot of states that saying that when you transfer a vehicle, you have to provide a title. But dealers are not held to this law. They can actually transfer vehicles for sale with different kinds of paperwork before the car is actually titled and the paperwork's finalized. And there's been situations where we ourselves have bought cars in North Carolina. We have paperwork that allows us to sell a vehicle without a title, without seeing that title and physically having it in our hands. So we'll buy a car from an auction. The auction will tell us title's good, title's coming to us. So we'll go ahead and sell that car. But later on, a month later, we'll find out, okay, the title's still not here. We sold this car. We need to know what's going on. And it turns out there's a POA, there's a power of attorney that hasn't been filled out. And now that dealership that we bought this car from, they can't find the original owner of it to be able to sign this paperwork to make it right. So with our paperwork with North Carolina, we fill it out to these customers and say, okay, if we are not able to get you this title and get this paperwork registered within 60 days, we have to actually get the car back from the customer. We give the customer the full money back, but it's a bad situation for our customer. It's a bad situation for us because at the end of the day, we have to make sure that we are making our customer whole. So we end up having to get that car back. And usually what we have to do is get them into another car that might be more expensive than the car that they owned, or we get the car back and give them their money back. But now the car is maybe not in the same shape that we sold it to them. And if they don't want to keep the car, they want to go somewhere else and buy a car. It's understandable because this is just a difficult situation that they had to deal with our dealership. It makes us look bad in those cases. And I can completely understand if the consumer does not want to buy another car from us after they go through this same kind of situation. But all that's to say that that these problems arise, and if a dealership doesn't make sure that the title is right, make sure that the lien's not satisfied, if they're not buying the car from a trusted source, and a lot of these consumers that are trading in their vehicles, they're not maybe not the most trusted source to be accurate on whatever they're saying the car is. There's been other situations where we've bought cars from auction. The franchise dealership took that trade in, but the person who traded that car in didn't actually own the vehicle. This could be another situation where, okay, the dealership didn't check that the car that was titled to this individual is not actually the individual that is trading in this vehicle. And if that's the case, it's basically a stolen car at that point. And then when my dealership is getting that in, that's a car I can't sell. It then becomes a paperweight for me. And we get into these situations where, okay, if we're trying to burn cars as quickly as possible, this kind of stuff, it even happens to our dealership. And it's a frustration that we have with the auctions because I really feel like they should verify this paperwork before they are allowing a lot of these franchise dealers to sell these vehicles. and it happens way more than I would like to deal with it. And I really hate the situation that we're put in. I hate the situation that the customers put in, and can really be stopped right at the point of trade in if these franchise dealers weren't so hasty to just be like, you know what, we're just going to get this deal done. We're going to get it done right now, and we'll deal with the paperwork later. And they do that just to get the consumer in the car, and they try to get them in the car as quickly as possible. I think we got something in chat. Let's pull that up. Kyle says, my wife's here. She's trying.
The mouse is not working. Okay.
All right, there we go. Kyle said, wouldn't there have been paperwork to provide the title? Yeah, there's your title. It's on a piece of paper. It's there. But when these franchise dealers are getting a lot of these trade-ins, they don't get the title there. I mean, there's often times where people will go just to look at a brand new car, and they are not anticipating buying that brand new car. They're not anticipating trading in their vehicle at that moment, so they don't have the title on them. The other situation is when a customer is trading in a car that they owe money on. If they owe money on it, they don't have the title right there. So they actually have to, there's a payoff on the vehicle, and the dealership will have to give the payoff to the lending institution that's holding the lien on the car. And then that lending institution will send the title to them. When you have, you can have problems on liens. You can have liens that weren't wrote correctly. You can have loans that get sold from one bank to another. And when that happens, all this paperwork has to be transferred. When you have paperwork, problems can arise. And we see that a lot in our dealership. We see that. All right, what else we got?
Here's just a comment on that story. I would never return it. What happens if they don't return it?
At that point, it becomes probably a civil case. And that dealership will probably end up owing that customer quite a bit of money. And I would assume that's probably what's going to happen in this situation with this Telluride, because if I'm correct, hearing from Steve's video that she did not want to return the car. So now you have two customers that have been wronged in this situation, because there's the initial customer who's trying to get their car back. Whatever the situation is, if this dealership is trying to get the car back from the individual that they sold it to, then there's some mess up, and they have to get that customer out of the brand new car and then back into their trade-in. You know what? I can give you another scenario that I just thought about where this can happen, is if financing fell through. So on that new car, where the initial customer bought the brand new car, they thought they had financing lined up, and then something comes back incorrect. If they did something wrong with the paperwork, sometimes even in these dealerships, fraud is involved, and they catch it, and they have to unwind the deal. If they unwind the deal, they have to unwind the whole deal, meaning they have to get that trade-in back to that customer. And that's actually a situation that we've seen too, where the auction will call us and say, okay, I know you bought this car 2 weeks ago, but we need it back. They have to unwind the deal because financing fell through. And this happens quite a bit too. So in that situation, yeah, that dealership will have to absolutely get that car back. And if that's the situation, then you have both of these consumers that can go after this dealership. You have the initial one where they can't buy the new car. They have to get their old car back, but their old car has already been sold to the new person. Then you have this new person that has bought this 1 year old Telluride, and now they don't want to give it back because they love the car, and they've already signed all the paperwork for it. So yeah, this dealership's probably going to get in quite a bit of trouble, but it's going to go down to a civil lawsuit, and the dealership is going to lose in that.
But if she keeps the car, she can never get a title in her name, right?
Yep. If she and the dealership's not going to be able to provide a title, so it's basically a paperweight. But that dealership's going to have to pay extra. What's probably going to end up happening? This vehicle was a 2023. It was a year old, a used one. If she really wanted to, she could probably say, you know what, I'll give you this car back because I know you're in a tough situation, but I'm going to need a brand new one for the same price that I paid for this used one. So that's probably what's going to happen in this situation. If that customer, if this lady on TikTok wants to wants to push back because that dealership has to make something happen to make both of these consumers whole again. Next question.
I want to sell my car, but I think there is inventory right now. Should I sell now or wait to do both?
Okay, we're going to the car market now, and yeah, I would sell your car right now. It depends on if you have to buy, if you have to replace it. So car market right now is very still very high. So you can get higher money for your vehicle if you're selling it, but you're going to end up just paying the extra price to actually buy the vehicle that you're wanting to get into. So it's a net. It's a break even kind of sum. But if you want to just sell your car, it's better for you to be a seller right now in this market. And it's not good to be a buyer. So if you have to replace the vehicle, I would say just hold on to it right now. All right, let's pull up Ron's comment. If we can try, there it is.
I'd be cautious trading in something that I owe money on. Dealership may mess up the payoff and also may go bankrupt and never pay it.
Yeah, this is correct. I don't know about the bankruptcy and never paying for it, because the dealership, if they want this title, if they want to be able to resell it and then re-register it to another customer, then they're going to have to pay it off, because they got to get that title to be able to transfer it. And I don't see a situation where bankruptcy, because bankruptcy doesn't happen overnight. A dealership can file bankruptcy, but they still have assets they can get rid of. Bankruptcy takes a very long time. You can look at situations like, I know it's a massive corporation, but like Sears. Sears went bankrupt long time ago, and there was still a Sears that was open down the street from us like 2.5 years ago. So bankruptcy, when you're seeing like even a company like Vroom, they're not just going to have to flash sell all of their assets just overnight. They're still going to make sure all the paperwork's right, because they still have to be able to transfer assets. They still have to be able to make sure whatever customers they're dealing with are still figured out. That's all part of the bankruptcy process. There was a dealership chain, I think it was All American Car Center. I think that's the name of it. Somebody put it in chat, whatever that was. But there were people that still owed them money on their loans, and they called in and they couldn't figure out how to pay them. This was all over the news for quite a bit. This was a big ordeal. But what ended up happening is a lot of those loans got packaged and sold off. And this is what would happen if a dealership went under and they had any of their title work, anything like that. A lot of that, the assets, anything associated with it, which would be the paperwork, the payoff, stuff like that, we get packaged together and sold off to another dealership. You're seeing that happen a lot right now. There are a lot of dealerships changing hands, and
I've seen it on YouTube.
No,
we're back. Hey, anyway, all of those assets get packaged, whatever. Our internet might not be great right now, so if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel, hit the like button. I don't want to just drop out for no reason. So thank you guys for watching.
You're back.
I'm back. I know, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, let's end it. Thank you guys. Have a good day.